Welcome to Your Career Story Podcast, a show that's designed for rockstar professionals looking for that extra booster shot of confidence in their careers. Whether you're trying to get clarity on a job transition, want some work-life balance inspiration, or need a strategy to snag that promotion or raise, this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Jenna Viviano, ex-Wall Streeter turned startup junkie who now coaches hundreds of clients, empowering them to take back control of the job search and land their dream job. So sit back, grab a glass of wine, and prepare yourself for your weekly boost of career confidence. Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of the Your Career Story Podcast. I am so excited to round out season 2 of the podcast series with one of my dearest friends, Elizabeth McCravey. She is my website guru, and we are talking all day today about how you can have some work from home tactics that actually make sure that you get stuff done. And so, Elizabeth, thank you for coming today, even though I'm at your house today.
Yes, thank you for asking me to be on the show, for coming over. This is fun.
Yeah, you're welcome. I feel like I never get to do podcast episodes with people live in person. And so what you guys don't know behind the scenes is we've been fiddling with our microphones for the past,
20 minutes.
20 minutes trying to figure out how this works. So we're imperfect in this process as well. So we're talking all about work from home tactics. But before we kind of get into that, I'd love to know, what are you reading these days? You are the queen of reading the best books. You're always giving me advice of, hey, you should check out this book. Hey, you should check out this program. So what are you reading these days?
Great question. So I do love reading. And I think, well, you know that I was in Colorado for a whole month this summer.
Yeah.
3 weeks of living at a Young Life camp with my husband, and then 1 week of vacation. So I got really into reading and that kind of being a focus while we were there. And I really love mystery books. So that, well, I read Where the Crawdads Sing, which you didn't.
I did not love Where the Crawdads Sing.
Which I loved that book.
It is a point of contention.
I feel like that's like a love-hate one for people. But I just read The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware.
Okay, should I read that one?
It's good. It's mystery. It's her new book that came out. I got a pre-released copy, actually, for a review.
Very nice. You're very important.
I tried to get it on the book reviewer sites.
Oh, so did you?
Yeah. So now I can read books for free.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. So yeah, that's a fun one I just read in the mystery space. And then for business, I'm reading the I Will Teach You to Be Rich book.
Oh, Ramit Sethi?
Yes, I love it.
Is it? So I actually have that book, and I have, when I say read it, I skimmed it. So I was about to say read it. I've skimmed it. Yeah. He's excellent. He's excellent in giving content advice, but he's not my favorite person. He's a little harsh, but I think he has great content, and that book is really good. So
yes, I'm loving that right now.
Okay, very nice. So tell us a little bit about, for those of you who are listening who don't know who Elizabeth is, if you follow me at all, you probably know who she is because she's all over my feed. She's the one who did my website. But tell us a little bit about what you do for a living.
Yeah, so I do branding, website design. I did Jenna's.
Yeah,
branding, website. One of my favorites.
It has gotten me so many compliments. I think that is definitely why people work with me. I get that compliment all the time that they've come to my website and they've looked at other career coaches' websites and they're like, yours was really good. And I said, I just hired the right person.
Oh, you're so nice. Well, see, it's so fun for me too, because yours is one that I get the most compliments on. Of like, people reach out to me and be like, oh, I really like this Jenna girl site, or like, I follow Jenna and I want a site like hers.
Yeah.
But then they miss that they also love your brand and like who you are, not just your website.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, they love your
flattering
copywriting and your images and like your message. So anyway, but I really love your website and your brand. But yeah, so that's what I do. And I sell website templates also. And I do marketing strategy and have a podcast.
You have all the things. What's your podcast name?
The Breakthrough Brand Podcast.
Okay,
which I want you to be on.
I know. We need to talk sales because that's my favorite conversation.
Yeah, I'm going to have Jenna on to talk. I think we're going to do sales calls, like how to master that. But I haven't had any guests yet. So you're the first real guest.
I would love to be Actually, Adam her husband was her first real guest.
Yeah, but it wasn't really like a business talk, so it feels less real. But yeah.
Awesome. So the main question that I asked every single person that went through the podcast, or that I had on for the podcast this past season. We're talking all about this being like the summer of rest. And this is the last episode of this season. And we're going to reboot in a couple of weeks, and we're going to do another season. I can't wait to let you guys know what that one is all about. But I'm keeping a little top secret for right now. But the whole summer was about this summer of rest. And so the question I asked every single guest was, what does work-life balance mean to you? So I'm going to pitch it over to you. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I love that question. I've loved listening to other people's answers and thoughts on it, and like really
so good, right?
Yeah,
it made me think about it.
Yeah, it's such a concept that you like hear people be like, "Oh yeah, work-life balance. Gotta have work-life balance."
You're like, what tangibly, what's that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean? So, I think for me, it feels like having not necessarily even a balance, but liking the way I'm spending time in both work and in play, and making sure that like I'm just liking how much time is going to each for that season. And also being present in whatever moment I'm in.
So when you're working, you're working. Yeah. When you're playing, you're playing.
Yeah, which that's like so hard to do though.
It's very hard to do.
So, but I think like that is what I would more so be like working towards than thinking like, oh, I have to be working 50% of the time and not working other 50%, but more of like, when I'm working, if it's a season of heavy work, like being present with that, or just even in the day of like when I'm working, I'm on with work. And then like when I'm hanging with friends or with my husband, like I'm doing that and not having your mind like thinking, like feeling guilty for not being in one over the other, basically.
That's a really good point. Cause I feel like I don't do that very well personally. I am the queen of put your LinkedIn away at 9 p.m. at night. That's usually what Brent tells me. He goes, put LinkedIn away, please. It is time to move on with your day. I do love LinkedIn. It's my favorite. It's my favorite social media platform. It's the only one that doesn't give you FOMO.
Yeah, I can see that.
I firmly believe that.
Give me a LinkedIn makeover one probably is horrible.
Probably is. It's okay though. Most people's are, so I can say that and not be offensive because pretty much everyone is.
My old business name.
I think it is. I've looked at it recently. We can fix that. But yeah, I think the being present part in wherever you are. How do you? Because I think a lot of people would say, yeah, totally, Elizabeth. How do you do that? Like, how do you actively force yourself into that?
I think for me, I need like a transition between the two things. And when I don't have one, it's harder.
And so, working from home makes it harder.
Yes. Yeah. Which we can talk about that. But like, so like, you know, my husband, he works, we live together, obviously. And he doesn't work he doesn't work from home though, but he kind of does. Like he can be like in and out of our house during the day.
Yeah.
And if he like shows up randomly for lunch and doesn't tell me that he's coming home for lunch, it's hard for me. And I like wasn't planning on taking a lunch break then. It's hard for me to be like, okay, now I'm in like eating lunch with my husband mode because I'm still in work mode.
Yeah. So
like for me, I tell him like, if you're going to come home for lunch, text me. And he did. Yesterday he came home for lunch and he like told me like 30 minutes ahead of time. So I'm like, okay, I'm winding down for a lunch break and I'm going to be present with him. And that doesn't mean we don't talk about work because I love like telling him whatever was going on that day. Working alone. You're like, I need to tell you what's going on.
Hello, person.
So, but I think like that's one way is like giving yourself like some transition space. And like when you work from home, you don't have like the drive home from work to be like decompressing. So giving yourself that in another way of like, okay, I'm transitioning, laptop's closing or like office doors closing for now, or like I'm taking a break to this other thing.
Yeah. So it's actually the physical action with the emotional state.
Yeah.
Both together.
I think that's, and I like taking like a walk as like a
you're really good about that.
I love walking as like a break, but I'll do that not right now since it's like 1,000,000 degrees outside. But when it's not, a lot of times I'll take like a break walking for even just like 10 minutes around our neighborhood before like transitioning out of work mode.
That's really good. I remember when I used to live in New York City and everyone else, I really didn't love the subway. So let's be clear when I say this. I hated the subway for lots of different reasons, but I did love the act of the commute. Like I did like having a commute because I actually walked to work for the first 3 years when I lived in New York.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
And so it was nice to walk to work, but it still didn't feel like that separation where then I had an actual commute where I had to take the train up to work because it would have taken hours to get to work if I was walking. And so I actually really enjoyed having that transition time so that I could, and when you're on the subway at the time when I was there wasn't Wi-Fi. So I literally had to shut off. There was no option, which felt really nice because I feel like it's so easy to get hyper connected or stay hyper connected, even though you're quote unquote off time.
Definitely.
So tell me about a time when you specifically felt like you were really distracted when you were working from home. Because how long have you been working from home for?
About 4 years.
Okay. So can you think of a specific time when you were really, really distracted when you were working from home?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, like often the reason I'm distracted is because I like my job being a website designer means I'm sitting at the computer when I'm working. If I'm not in front of my computer, I'm likely not working.
Sure.
Which gets really exhausting which sounds stupid to be exhausted by sitting all day, but it does feel like you kind of get stir crazy of like, okay, I've been sitting, this screen is hurting my eyes.
Do you use any eyeglasses?
I do have glasses that have the blue light.
The blue light
but
pixel.
They're like, but I need to get something like that because I wear contacts. So they're prescription. And whenever I wear those glasses, I don't feel awake. It's really weird. It feels like my nighttime glasses.
Sure.
So I need something like that though. That would be helpful. But yeah, I can be like, just kind of stir crazy, and that makes me not want to work on what I'm doing because I feel like I have energy I need to get out, not on the computer, and like I want to hang and I want to walk or like move. And the way I usually deal with that is by like doing that, like taking a break. Like I feel like people don't take breaks often enough.
No.
For me, and I think it's a good thing to try to figure out for yourself, but like I think like 3 hours, maybe even 2 is like the most time I can give and be productive before I start to like be tired or like I'm not giving as hard of work because I've been working the same thing too long. So I like to take breaks, and specifically I go on a walk, I put my headphones in, but I don't listen to anything.
So why?
I don't know. I've been doing that for years, but it helps me like kind of be in my own head and less distracted to have the headphones in with no music.
Do you feel like you process through things that you've been thinking throughout the day that you haven't been able to really process because you're in front of your computer?
Yes, I think, it's a big like a lot of my podcast episodes I've like written in my head while doing that. And then I come back and record it. So it's like, I don't know, walking's a really big one for me of like a way to kind of unwind. But yeah, I think for me, it's like just sitting too long can be taxing.
Yeah, I'm with you. Have you heard? I've told you about the book Rest. Everyone who's listened to my podcast has heard about this book, but I'm a huge, huge fan of this book. And they talk about some of the habits of the most creative people are people who take walks. Because what happens is when you're walking, you're processing through things. There's something about forward motion that helps you process through things that you've been latently trying to process through, but it's happening as you're walking. It's very interesting. If you guys want to know what book that is, you can actually hop on over to www.jennaviviano.com/resources. And it's on that list, which that page was made by the beautiful Elizabeth.
What a wonderful page.
It's a great page.
I do love your resource page. That's great. I need to read that though.
Yeah, it's just, I think it's one of those books that it's more academic for sure. And it gives you case studies of some of the most successful people and their habits. And part of that habit of rest and part of it is walking. So, so for you, it's that walking helps you. It's funny. You don't put any music in or anything. Not even like piano music.
No, nothing. I actually have gotten in the habit of doing that after my workouts at the track at our gym, walking around. But I feel like I need my headphones in to not feel like distracted by all the other people walking.
Sure.
But I'll do that for like 20 minutes after my workout and just like a slow walk, not trying to like exercise really, but just to kind of think. Like I did that yesterday actually to plan my day. Like I walked and typed into my phone, kind of like my to-do list and thinking about like what needs to happen the whole week to really like be productive.
So it's essentially like a strategy session for yourself.
Alone time strategy session with me and my team. Myself. I actually do have a team, but my team isn't me.
I feel like this is relevant for people that are in corporate life too, that end up working from home, because it's very similar where it's very easy to get distracted maybe by Facebook. That's my thing. My thing is getting distracted, not necessarily Facebook, but Pinterest has been my new vice because I've been trying to stay off Instagram.
Oh, you're on Pinterest.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've been on Pinterest a lot lately and just like pinning everything and getting quote unquote inspired when really I need to be doing somebody's resume or or like working on a course that I'm creating. But I have actually heard when you mentioned the time blocking of 3 hours, I think it really just depends on what time of day that is too and when your energy levels are up or down. Because I find that if it's the afternoon, I can work for 50 minutes and then I have to take a break. Like it's in the afternoon, I lose all of my energy. If it's the morning, I can do concentrated time from like 6:30 a.m. till probably 9:30 and that's fine. But once it gets later in the day, it's like game over. It's not happening.
I think that's cool too that you know when your times are, because I think it's different for everyone. But I think most people probably, at least somewhat in the morning. Because then you haven't given your energy out to a lot of, that's why people say you have better willpower in the morning. Like you're more likely to make a healthy breakfast than you are to have a snack at 11 p.m. that's healthy.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know, it's true for me. But yes, it's like you're better at focusing and like all the decision making. But for me, I found that for me, it's mornings and also sometimes late at night. Being like a creative person, I can get back in the zone at like 8 p.m. and could work for like 2 hours or so and feel like really inspired.
Most people don't do really well in the afternoon. I don't think I've ever heard of somebody that's like 2 to 4 is my best time. And I've never heard of anyone. I've heard like a second wind at like 5:30 or 6. And that's when people will get their second wind, or late night if they're not morning people. Yeah. So I think the number one takeaway from that kind of part of the conversation is figure out what your energy levels are so you can figure out how to not be really distracted when you're working from home, and to create your schedule, if you can, around when your energy levels are. What do you think you could do, like, if you can't really control your schedule that much?
Yeah, and that's like when you're working from home. And
let's say you're in a corporate professional and I've got meetings. I have a client right now. She has meetings all day long, and we're trying to figure out how do you create space, or how do you create boundaries with work to make sure that you are still working in that rhythm?
Yeah, I mean, that is harder. It's already like, it makes it easier already to work from home, but then it can also bring back hard stuff about it if you do not, like my father-in-law works from home, but he has to be in front of his desk specific hours. So he doesn't actually have the flexibility of like, do what you can whenever you want. It's like, you have to be there, 9 to 5 or whatever it is for him. But yeah, I feel like maybe you could ask your employer about switching things around. That's what I would think. If it's like driving you nuts to have too many meetings in one day, or you feel like you need a break at this specific time. Because I feel like most employers care about you getting the work done more than like, we need you sitting there from 8 to 5 or whatever.
Some of my corporate professionals are listening to the same. My boss isn't like that.
About letting you. Yeah. I mean, I know before I started my business, my first job, you had a 1 hour break. It had to be in a specific time span. And that was really hard for me because we sat in front of the desk all day, and I would feel like I need to go outside. I need to like move a little. And my movement was I would go to the bathroom and take longer and walk around the lobby. But that was like all I was allowed to do. And it was not fun. So I really feel like I've embraced working from home because of that. And I'm like, okay, I don't actually have to do it that way. Sure. So why don't I do it the way I like want to, and that works for me.
What's a typical day look like for you?
It really is different. See, because for me, I have days that have meetings, like today, like work.
So a week. Okay. How's a week look like for you then? That might be easier.
I try to kind of talking about like the idea of batch scheduling. I try to think about like what needs to be done for the whole week. I usually set 3 goals. I call them champagne moments.
Oh, so I love that.
Yes, like 3 things that you're like, if by the end of the week you got these 3 things done, it would feel like worthy of like a champagne toast to celebrate, that kind of idea. But and they're usually like big things, not like sending the email to so-and-so. It's like something that's actually like moving something forward in your job. So I like yesterday I came up with those while I was walking around the track of like what my 3 were going to be.
Do you want to share?
What were they? I know. Well, one has to do with my template shop launch and writing all the sales emails. So that's one, which is like, that's a lot of work. Yeah. And I wrote 3 of them yesterday, and like, I'll probably work on that tomorrow. And so it's like, I come up with those kind of goals of like, what's going to need to happen. And then I kind of fit that into the whole day. I like to, like, being in the creative field, I really like to do what feels right to work on at that time, if possible.
Sure.
So like yesterday I was really into like, I'm going to do some copywriting and like marketing work for my business. But then today it's like, I've been working on designing.
Okay.
So it's like
different mindset.
Yeah. But I really would recommend like in your work, trying to stay in the same general sphere of like, for me, if I've switched from like designing a website to copywriting and back and forth for the entire day, it's like literally a different space, like headspace. And so it's really distracting.
It's exhausting.
Back and forth. Yeah, it's more effort than you should have to give off.
Sure. And then, so if you're like in finance, for instance, to kind of bring it over to even a more technical role, it's like if you're in Excel, stay in Excel for a while. Yes, and then maybe you work in PowerPoint and work on a pitch book if you can. Something along those lines to translate what you're saying to people that are in 9 to 5s I think it's very much still doable to batch your work in a way that's going to be effective for you and to create those champagne moments. I love the champagne moments. I'm going to have to start doing that because I have not. My thing is making Mondays awesome, which I love
that you do. And see, I try to do that too. Like I didn't start work yesterday till 10 a.m. because I had like a slower morning.
Yesterday was Monday for us here.
Yesterday, yeah, your podcast comes out on Tuesdays though, right?
Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I try to do that a little bit on Mondays. I need to do more of your way though.
Just schedule it in.
Bigger thing.
Yeah, schedule it in and make it so that you have something to look forward to. Like yesterday, I didn't post about it. I forgot, but I met up with a girlfriend of mine who we lived in New York at the same time. We went to the same church. And she lives in Nashville. She's a musician. We met at Pinewood Social here in Nashville and just had lunch. It was great. It was a great little like middle of my day thing. And then I went right back to it right afterwards. And so it was just something to look forward to on my Monday. So do you have any specific rules? I hate to use the word rules because they actually really don't like rules, but any rules that I'm a 3 and I don't think 3s like, we don't not like authority.
So 6s are supposed to like rules, but I hate rules.
Well, then maybe you're just a rogue 6.
I really do. Like, I hate the idea of rules too. I'm like, I want to break the rules.
Yeah, that's how I am too. I'm like, you're going to tell me what to do. I'm going to do the opposite. Yeah. It's probably very prideful. Lord, you must probably, convict me of that. So do you have any specific quote unquote rules that you abide by when you're working from home? Like some people are like, I am not wearing yoga pants or I have to work in a specific area. Like my one friend, her husband says no phones in the bedroom. There are 2 things you're allowed to do in the bedroom. I won't tell you what they are. I bet you can guess. But like no phones in the room. So what are your like rules?
Yeah, so I have a couple. One would actually be what you just said, like not working from bed ever. Mm-hmm. I don't like to think of like that. Like that's a space where I'm going to sleep. And, so it's like you don't want that to be also where you're working. Mm-hmm. So that's a big one. Also, another one that I'm just obsessed with is using Toggl. It's a website to track my hours. Okay. So that I actually know how much I'm working. Because I think a lot of times we can either get in the mindset of like, oh, I just worked an 80-hour week when you really didn't. Or you think you're working or you're overworking and you're like, you don't realize that you're actually spending your entire day working. So with Toggl, it's completely free. And it's just like a website you go to, but you create different projects. Mm-hmm. So I would make I like when we did your branding website, I had a project that was you. And so I would like clock in and out of that project. So then when it's done, I can see like, okay, how much time did I spend doing that?
That is great.
Yeah, it's a great way to like know if you're paid not hourly to end up knowing what your hourly rate is. Mm-hmm. And like, so for like other things though, I have like a big category that's my business. And then I have like emailing, podcasting, education, client outreach, like all those kind of categories. I clock in and out of them.
So Toggl, TOGGL?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's really a game changer for me though, because I like to know how much I'm working and it helps you like the goal for me is to work less and get more done in the hours than like be like, oh, I want to hit, 10 hours today. It's like, I try not to ever think like that, but sometimes I'm
like the opposite.
Well, see, but I know like a lot of times, like right now, I do have that much work to do a lot of the time, but I'm trying to I feel like it forces me to be more productive in the work. Sure. And so like then if I'm, clocked in on emailing, but I suddenly am scrolling Instagram, I make myself clock out. It's like, even though like a lot of people, social media is a part of your work, but when I'm scrolling Instagram, it's not a part of my work.
It's not part of your work.
It's just hanging out. Yeah. So it makes me like clock out doing that. But yeah, it just helps to know how much you're working.
Yeah, I love that. I think that I'm going to start using that because even as you were talking, I'm thinking about, okay, so I was an email. It'll make me batch my tasks better too.
Yeah, so you're not constantly switching.
Yeah, because I'm the queen of that. I have ADD and then I think of one thing and then I think of another thing and then I think of another thing and I'm like, wait, I forgot to do that one thing I first started doing. That email sitting in drafts for 24 hours.
Yeah, see, you can even say like I did yesterday, like coming in on a Monday, it was like, okay, there's a lot of emails. I'm going to spend an hour or less if it takes less time, but I'm going to dedicate, because I hate responding to emails. Yeah. So I'm going to dedicate an hour to be in the inbox and like not be tempted by my phone or by like something that's more fun.
Do you ever lock your phone away?
I do put it away. Yeah. That would actually, and that's hard though. Like,
it is so hard to do.
Like, I didn't say this for when you asked that, but like, I think my biggest distraction is probably my phone, technically. Because it's hard when it feels like part of work. And even if it doesn't though, it's just like, always there.
Yeah.
So I like to, a lot of times if I'm like really trying to focus on something, I put it in another room.
Okay.
And then also a lot of people get like iMessage notifications on their laptop. So I like quit it. So it won't do that.
Okay. That's probably smart. I love keeping that up.
Yeah. Well, I like to text from there because you write faster.
It's so much faster.
Yeah. But then it can be distracting. And that's another thing. Like if you're constantly like responding to a text and then moving back to whatever you're doing, like that quick shift back and forth, like loses your productivity.
Yeah.
So you're likely to be able to work less if you quit doing that. And you can actually like spend time on Instagram after.
Yeah. And do it afterward and be intentional about it. And, you know, I'm ready to give up Instagram. So you know how I am.
See,
I'm like, get rid of it.
I felt that lately with Instagram.
It's very hard to build a community on there anymore. It's a different conversation for a different day, but it's very hard to do that. Yeah. So speaking of community, let's talk a little bit about how do you build community working from home, whether you are in a corporate environment and you're working completely remotely and you're only communicating with coworkers on Slack, or you are an entrepreneur and you're working kind of solo, like both you and I are pretty much solo. How do you feel like you have been able to build community, or do you ever feel lonely?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think, well, I can get to the community thing in a second, but as far as feeling lonely, I think the fact that I'm an introvert helps with that, like counteract that. So
I'm not.
Yeah, see, I would love to hear your thoughts on this too, because like for me, I feel I'm definitely an introvert, but I can also be extroverted. Like I love hanging out with people. I like social things. I like talking in front of people. Like I like all that. But I definitely get fueled by being alone. So when I am working all day alone and my husband's just maybe coming in and out, which is helpful that I'm not like actually alone all day, but I actually end up liking it. Okay. So I'm like happy being alone working because I'm introverted. But then I feel like it ends up being really cool because working alone, then when I go to hang out with friends after work or my husband, I'm like ready to hang because I'm not drained by like being around people in an office all day.
Yeah.
But I think like for people where that's not the case, like I have a friend who for a while, his company had him working remotely and he hated it. Like literally
some people hate it.
He left the job over it. He was like, I can't do it. I need to be around people. And he tried the co-working space thing, which I think is helpful.
It is helpful,
but it just wasn't for him. And when we were talking about it, I'm like, what you're describing that you can't do is like how I prefer. Yeah. So I think it really depends on the person. But if you are someone who doesn't feel like when I'm saying that you like feel good working alone, I think co-working spaces are awesome. You've done that. You still do that.
I have a co-working space that I go to. It's called Meet Greet here in Nashville. But I've utilized WeWork before when I lived in New York, and then also here in Nashville. So WeWork, I love. I'm an extrovert, so I need to be working alongside somebody, not every day, but I just hired a virtual assistant. She's more than a virtual assistant. She's doing like marketing stuff. And I love having her, even though she's remote. Like I still love being able to Slack her during the day because it feels like for me, that's actually interaction with a person. But I will say going into my co-working space, I'll probably do that 2-3 times a week, which is enough for me that I can go in there, get the social aspect that I want. I'm like really good friends with the people who lead kind of Meet Greet there, which is awesome and super wonderful. But I also get my alone time. So I've been able to marry the two, but I would die if I was, in the winter, I remember February, Nashville had 3 weeks of rain and no one left. And I thought I was going to go cuckoo in my apartment. I was going to go crazy.
Yeah, I think winter being harder.
It was awful. The summer's not as bad, but the winter for me, because I'm already a person who needs vitamin D, I was struggle busing for sure. And so I need to make sure that in those days that I actually do leave my apartment and go to a co-working space. Otherwise, it's never going to happen.
You know, I think I can totally see that. And I think social stuff too, like making sure that you're like making plans with friends, whether it's in the day, if that's available to you with like the way your schedule is being set up, working from home, or right after work. Yeah. And then having a team helps. I feel the same way about my two people, because it's like, we email and talk on Trello a lot. And so it's like, I feel like they're like in it with me. Sure. And doing, if you are a business owner, things like masterminds is awesome. Like I was in one for about like 8 months, like not that long ago. And it felt like those were my people and almost like they were like in it with me, even though we were mostly virtual. Yeah. And I've done a co-working day. Like I did a strategy day. Stephanie Mae Wilson and she was on a different podcast episode, which we'll link to, which she was talking about
singleness versus marriage and what that work-life balance change looks like this season. She's awesome. But her and I did like a co-working day where the two of us got together and had, even if we were working on our own things and we would come and meet and chat about what we were talking about, but we kind of had that day with ourselves, but we were both working on business side by side. Yeah. So I think even if you're in a find another friend that's also a remote worker, if you're in a more corporate environment, and just sit with them as you're working. Yeah. I think that really helps to be like, hey, you want to go grab a coffee? Or, hey, do you want to, something like that, I think really helps. We also did our weekend, our strategy weekend.
We did that twice because we did the weekend and then we did the planning day together, which that was us working together though.
Yes, that was us working together. Wait, when was that?
That was in January.
Okay, yes.
When we did it at your co-working space.
Yes, that's right.
We took a room there and we planned out our basically goals for the year in our business.
We should probably revisit this.
I need to look at those again. That was really helpful though. And our little weekend away was fun.
We did. We got a lot of stuff done that weekend.
Yeah.
Both of us had gotten vision casted really well, I think, during that time period.
Yeah.
I think also finding different networking groups. Yes. That's how we met actually was I had launched this. If you don't have one, launch it yourself. Is my answer to that. If you don't have something for you, launch it yourself. If you have any questions about that, you want to reach out to me, connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search for my name, Jenna Viviano, connect with me and ask what are 2 tips that you might have for launching your own networking group or connect group. Yeah. And that's what we did. And that's how you and I met.
Yeah, and those are so huge. I would say I wish you'd bring that one back. I
kind of want to.
Yeah, see, stuff like that. I still remember when Steph invited me to it. I was she told me about it, and I was like, that's literally what I need. Because I was at that time feeling really intensely that I didn't have friends who did what I did.
Sure.
And wanted that sense of community of having people in your industry to hang out with.
Yeah.
So getting involved.
I should bring that back. I think about that. A lot of those people that were in that group they were my first friends in Nashville and they're my friends still.
Yeah. I think to a lot of people from that group. And it's stuff like that. If you live in a decent sized city, small cities, it's going to be harder, but even medium to large, Nashville has so much of that.
Yes.
It totally does. And a lot of it's free. Yep. So it's you don't even have to think of it as an investment you have to make. It can just be a free hangout.
Which you should be doing that even if you don't work remotely.
Yeah, really. That's just advice. Free advice for everyone.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, tell me one last thing that you feel you're most excited about for your business this year, and kind of finishing out. You were mentioning the templates, so would love to kind of share with the listeners. Thanks, team. Tell us a little bit about where they can get connected with you and what you're most excited about for this rest of the year.
Yeah, I'm excited about, I'm launching a new set of templates.
So explain to what templates are for people who might not know.
Website templates are basically a way for you to buy a pre-made website and then you input your own images and text, your copywriting into it. And you can change the fonts and colors and that kind of settings that come with the template, or you can leave it. Mm-hmm. But it's a way to get your website up and running quickly and something really beautiful and strategically designed by a designer, but not doing custom. So Jenna had a custom website, but then I also now mostly do templates for people. So that's basically what that is. And
it's a really, really easy tool to use. Yeah. Show it. Once I learned how to do it, did not take me long at all whatsoever to figure out how to use it. And I've now kind of added pages, not as beautifully as Elizabeth's, but
great job on it.
But it's not difficult and it still looks super, super professional. And so we'll put those links in the show notes as well as kind of the link to her template shop. So how many are you launching?
4 new ones, which isn't that many, but they all have a lot in them. They're all around 14 pages. So it's
and who are they for, would you say?
People who are building personal brands, mostly women, but men could definitely use it because you can change out anything, but the colors and fonts tend to be more feminine. But yeah, a lot of coaches, photographers, the things of that nature, but usually people in the personal brand space. You'll find them helpful. And I think you have a coupon code, don't you?
I do have a coupon code. We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, because Jenna is part of that community as a custom design gal.
Yeah. So. I mean, she is the reason why I get business, honestly, because my website looks good and it's because of her. So I'm very grateful for that. Awesome. Well, where else can they get connected with you, kind of beyond the templates?
Yeah, so ElizabethMcCravey.com, Elizabeth McCravey on Instagram, and then the podcast is the Breakthrough Brand Podcast. And y'all have to watch for Jenna to be on it.
Yeah.
As the first guest besides my husband. So that'll be really fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your work from home tactics. Super helpful. I took away some couple of those things, especially the toggle. So friends, thank you so much for listening to this entire season of the Your Career Story podcast. Stay tuned for in the next couple of weeks. We're going to have a brand new season for you, jam-packed with really actionable career advice for people who are looking to make a career move at the end of this year or into 2020, which we're already in, which is crazy. So crazy. Awesome. Well, thanks, friends, and see you next time. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for listening to Your Career Story podcast. I would love to get to meet you. And there are a couple of ways that we can connect in between episodes. First and foremost, you know I love my LinkedIn. Second is via Instagram. And third is over on my website. I actually have a special spot just for you full of fun, free resources. So all you have to do is go to www.jennaviviano.com/resources. Super simple for a bunch of freebies that will help you boost your career. Hope to see you next week.